The summer of 2012 will go down as one of the wettest summers in Clark County history. Two major storms, one on August 22nd, another on September 11th, washed all of southern Nevada in rain. Hello, I'm Carrie Ann Mokopathai, Public Information Manager for the Regional Flood Control District, and welcome to another edition of the Flood Channel. This past August, nearly 2.3 inches of rain fell near McCarran Airport. The average for August is only 0.3 of an inch. Channels in the valley were flowing near capacity. There were more than 20 reports of stranded drivers. Tragically, William Moots, a high school senior, was killed when he fell into the Pittman Wash near Sunset Road and was swept downstream. His death serves as a reminder of just how dangerous floodwater can be. In September, a second powerful storm hit the valley. Another 1.2 inches of rain was measured. The storm was centralized in the downtown and east sides of the valley. Neighborhoods near the Desert Rose Golf Course and UNLV saw extensive damage. In total, more than 80 homes and businesses were reported damaged by the flood. A landscaper was killed when he was swept away while working on the golf course. Charleston Underpass and several other intersections were closed due to the flooding. Every time there's intense rain, we see countless videos of people standing near flowing channels, playing in flooded roadways, and attempting to drive through flooded intersections. That's one of the reasons why the district has an annual news conference to remind everyone about the dangers that could be lurking during flash flood season. We're here at the Lower Flamingo Detention Basin. About a year and a half ago, this entire area was a big vacant lot, and now it's a huge detention basin and multi-use facility. In addition to the start of flash flood season, today is also the beginning of our license plate billboard contest. So I'd like to go ahead and get the program started with our first speaker, our General Manager, Gail Frazier.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming out here today to help us get the message out to everybody about our flash flood season coming up here. Just a little flood history here first. We'll go back to July 8th, 1999. All our washes were running full. We did not nearly have the network of flood control facilities we have today, and that's when there was a presidential disaster declaration and over $20 million in just public damages that this community suffered. In August of 2003, Gowan Road in the northwest, we had over 3 inches of rain in 90 minutes. We had vehicles like you see over here, this red one, stuck in intersections. We had helicopter rescues. Then again in August of 2007, something that really didn't make the news, but we still had 3 inches in 90 minutes out by the lakes on the west side of town. And that was where our regional network was in place. There were a few homes that did get wet. It was garbage day, they blocked the inlets. About 12 homes got wet in that flood. But my point here is it's happened in the past and it will happen in the future. And that's the important thing about getting this message out on an annual basis as we go into flash flood season.
Our mission at the Flood Control District is to protect people and their property from the impacts of flooding. So that's for current residents and future residents and the visitors to the valley. And we do that in two ways. We do that by keeping people away from floods and keeping floods away from people. And we keep floods away from people by building flood control infrastructure. And what we've done to date is completed 90 detention basins and 573 miles of flood control channels. So we like to get the word out and try to keep people away from floods by our Flood Safety News Conference and our public information program. We are here today at the Lower Flamingo Detention Basin, and what it does is it allows a lot of water to come in, but it stores water and only lets a little bit of water go out so there's no flooding downstream.
It's just another addition to the many projects that the Regional Flood Control District has already built and constructed here in southern Nevada. This is a fabulous facility. It's not just a detention basin, it's a recreation area also for the residents here in southern Nevada and in Las Vegas, so it's a great project.
Well, we're so especially proud of this newest addition to the facilities, the regional flood control facilities. And this is really a regional partnership. Flooding is not a Las Vegas problem or a Henderson problem. It's a regional issue when it occurs. And so this is part of a whole collaborative effort by the Regional Flood Control District to provide important and needed services in our community.
Every year, the Flood Control District is completing flood control facilities to protect the residents of Clark County. So every year we're better protected against a flood than we were the year before.
We've invested about $1.7 billion of taxpayer money back into infrastructure needs that we need here in southern Nevada. What's important is those dollars are being reinvested in this community. Those taxpayer dollars are being reinvested right here. Local companies, local firms, local construction jobs, and that's what's important to me.
Well, I think it certainly made things safer on the roads for our residents, and we're very concerned that during a flood event that our residents should be safe, and facilities like this ensure that by collecting that water that's running down the streets and collects it into a detention basin, so it's much safer for our residents.
The district is working to help protect Clark County from the effects of flooding, and educating residents about how they can protect themselves during a storm is an ongoing effort. Every time it rains, we see news reports of people making poor decisions trying to drive through floodwater or playing near flood-filled channels. A goal of this event is to remind everyone to stay safe when it rains.
Well, anytime anybody, firefighters, medics, or the citizens of the valley get stuck in swift water or get around swift water flooding events, it's very dangerous for everybody. The Regional Flood Control District has done a wonderful job over the last 20 years diverting water and stopping a lot of the floods that would have happened. It does flood here. When it floods quick, it floods fast, people aren't prepared for it, and it causes a lot of problems. And we want to encourage the public to avoid flooded areas. It may take you an extra 20 minutes to get where you're going, but at least you'll get there, and we really want to encourage people to do that.
Even with all that we've done so far, we still have a long way to go. We have 31 detention basins left to build, and we have 230 miles of channels. And so people need to be careful, especially when they're behind the wheel during a flood event.
The news conference is seen as the kickoff to flash flood season. It's the perfect time to remind residents about the potential danger of summer storms. The license plate billboard campaign is one of the many tools the district uses to help spread the message of flood safety. For the past several years, the news conference has also marked the start of the district's license plate billboard contest. The contest is held to find the newest billboard slogans. The winners are honored at the district's Board of Directors meeting. Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I am here to announce the winner of our 2012 license plate billboard contest. This year we received 2,046 entries. The winner is Too Deep to Try by Dallas Davis.
I just want to say that I really appreciate all the work that flood control does so that I can get around this town now when it rains. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And now for the Spanish winner, we had 251 entries this time. And the Spanish winner was Anibal Ribeiro with En un dos por tres, which means in a second or in an instant.
On behalf of the board, thank you for participating.
Every year, the contest winner is different. They have different careers, different home lives, and different goals for the future, but there's one thing each contest winner has in common. They all pull from their experiences with flooding to help spread the message of staying safe during a storm.
I saw an ad one day and I went and sat down in front of my computer and put in the thing that I was thinking about for a long time. I was allowed 3, so I picked the one that I liked really a lot, Too Deep to Try, which happens to be the one that won, and 2 others, and submitted those. There's tremendous changes in flood control here. I can go anywhere I want when it rains now, and I don't have to worry about it.
Our purpose is to protect property and life, and that's what our goal is in the Regional Flood Control District. This is just one of those many projects. This whole press conference is about getting that message out. It's interesting, we're the only local government body that actually celebrates flood control season because it's such a serious issue. We have a great license plate program to get that message out there. We put these winning license plates up on billboards, and it helps us get that message out. That's why this press conference is so important.
Spreading the message of flood safety is a top priority at the district. We're reaching out to motorists with our billboard campaign, kids with our student outreach program, and residents with our television public service announcements. During the 2012 summer storms, there were several reports of drivers putting their life in danger while trying to cross flooded intersections, and video of kids playing near flood channels filled with water. But we truly believe without the district's public information program, the number of people putting their lives at risk would have been even higher. The district spends a lot of time spreading a general message of flood safety, and when the sky starts turning gray, a partnership of several organizations come together to make sure residents stay informed. The district's newest team member, Kelsey Hand, has more.
The goal of the National Weather Service is simple: to protect life and property by providing weather forecasts and warnings to the public. But what good is a warning if it falls on deaf ears? That's why the National Weather Service partners with the Regional Flood Control District and the local media to make sure all Clark County residents know when there's a potentially dangerous thunderstorm in the forecast.
Part of living in the Las Vegas Valley is the fact that it doesn't always rain everywhere. I've always heard the joke that if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes, it's going to change on you. It doesn't have to be raining where you're at to have a problem, because we're a bowl, the valley's a bowl, and so it could be raining upstream from you, and that water is going to rush down towards you. And so it really doesn't matter. You could look out your window and it could be blue skies or puffy white clouds and may not be raining, but you could still have a problem. And it only takes about a ½ inch of rain to cause a flash flood in Las Vegas. Reason being is we have very dry soil, and when the water hits the soil, it has nowhere to go, it can't seep in, so it has to run off.
Flash flood season is probably the most dangerous time of the year for Las Vegas and the Valley. And the reason why is because in the summer months, you get that tropical moisture that comes in from the south. You mix it in with that hot weather in the summer, and it gives us the big thunderstorms that drop a lot of rain in a short period of time.
Typically the summer is monsoon season. And what that means is that high pressure, big atmosphere ridge sits up over the Four Corners region. And that forces air to go clockwise. And so all of the Gulf moisture gets sucked up and moves up towards Arizona, and eventually, if we have good southwest winds, it gets brought up over southern Nevada. And so we have a really juicy prime air mass, and it's just waiting to go. There's always stuff in the atmosphere, there's always moisture, there's always particles, there's always the ingredients for a possibility of a thunderstorm. But you need a triggering mechanism, the heat. And so in the summer we have all of this heat. And so the warmer we get with all the other ingredients that there, the better the chance there is for thunderstorms. I like to use the pot of water example. So you put a pot of water on the stove, and if you don't turn it on, nothing happens. You turn it on low, and then all of a sudden, you get a bubble every so often. As that water heats up, you get bubble after bubble after bubble after bubble, and that's kind of what's happening in the atmosphere. And so the fact that we get really hot here is a prime reason why we can get thunderstorms. When it does rain, that is when we use the alert system, because that's how we figure out what's going on the ground, because we can sample the atmosphere through radar and satellite, but what happens when it hits the ground, we don't necessarily know.
The Flood Threat Recognition System, or FTRS as we call it, is a network of rain gauges, weather stations, and water level sensors that are located throughout Clark County. They are strategically positioned where we need data. Often they're co-located with our flood control facilities so that we can monitor what the water levels are and how those facilities are functioning. These stations send data via radio to base stations at the National Weather Service, United States Geological Survey, and the Regional Flood Control District. Currently, we have 187 stations throughout Clark County. About 3/4 of our stations are located here in the urbanized areas of the Las Vegas Valley. We also have gauges in outlying areas so we can get better coverage.
It's a big help for us, it really is, because the flood control district's rain gauges are so abundant and so numerous around the area that not only us but residents can turn to them real quick and see how much rain came down in that neighborhood. So it's a big help to us and the Weather Service too.
I can put out the best warning there is, but I've got to have the media's help to broadcast that. And it doesn't matter what TV station or radio station you listen to, they're all getting the information directly from the National Weather Service.
They turn to us to get it out on air, and we turn to them to get other means of information. Normally during the year, you know, it's pretty calm in the Weather Center, but when we start having those storms and you're trying to get your social media up and running, you're trying to get the radar, look at the radar and get all those watches and warnings out, it gets pretty hectic because you know there's a lot of lives that are in danger, so you got to be on the ball with everything.
National Weather Service and the Regional Flood Control District really work together using this data. We depend on their forecasts, and they take a good look at our data because it gives them more opportunity to make measurements in a wider area. It's a public safety issue. We need to know where flash flooding is happening, other severe weather, and we need to be able to get that message to the public.
The gauges are just invaluable to us. We really use that data every day, and that's why this is such an important partnership for us.
When it comes to flash floods, that's no joke. The flash flood watches and warnings are put there for a reason. We're talking a lot of rain that's going to flood very quickly and fast.
If I put out a flash flood watch, that might be put out at 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, but there may be no thunderstorms around. A watch means get ready, be prepared. So we put a flash flood watch out when we have greater than 50% confidence that we could see flash flooding somewhere in that watch area. We put out a warning when we know it's going to flash flood. We have either gotten reports of flash flooding or we're watching this heavy rainfall fall over the mountains and it's going to come flushing down into the valley.
It really just takes a little bit of that fast-moving water just to pick up and move a car. In fact, a couple years ago covering a story, I saw a guy on a bike with his groceries that thought he could go through it on a bike. I tried to warn him, but he fell down, his bike floated away along with his groceries, and luckily he made it out okay, not realizing that it can be dangerous. Less than a decade ago, we had major flooding, but since the Flood Control District put in all the washes, all the piping and everything else, and everything to collect all that water, it's helped tremendously protect a lot of neighborhoods and probably saved a lot of lives.
If people realize it or not, weather plays a role every day of your life, in everybody's life. If you meet somebody new, what's the first thing you talk about? The weather. And so our mission of the Weather Service, protecting lives and property, we take that to heart.
It's been a very exciting opportunity for me to be involved with the flood threat recognition system. When it rains and I see the weather coming in, I know that I had a part of making that data available.
We play a big part in the community by letting everybody know when something's happening at that instant. And working in conjunction with the Flood Control District and also the Weather Service, all of us working together, I feel even safer knowing that we're all working together to make sure that we get the right information out there in a really quick period of time.
That partnership was tested with all of the storms we had this past summer. As the rain came pouring down, the district, the National Weather Service, and the local media worked together to let residents know what was happening outside and how to stay safe during the floods.
The storms this past summer will be added to a long list of flash floods that have affected residents here in Clark County. Every year the district gets closer to minimizing that flood risk. Sometimes a storm can illustrate weak points in the district's flood control network, but more often than not, when a storm hits and damage is caused, the district had a project in design that would have helped. That was the case when a massive storm pummeled the valley back in July of 1999.
This is the Duck Creek Channel. We're kind of east of Boulder Highway and north of Russell Road right now. This portion of the Duck Creek is at the lower end of the Duck Creek watershed. The entire Duck Creek drainage basin drains to this location. Hundreds of square miles drain to this point. In 1999, there was no channel improvements here at all. The wash was subject to erosion. It didn't have much capacity. There was uncontrolled vegetation growing in it. So in 1999, in July 8th, 1999, we had a 100-year flood that deposited a lot of rain and a lot of runoff into this wash. The washes couldn't handle the flow. The crossings clogged up and flows got up and out of the wash. Once the flows get out of the washes, they impact structures, they impact houses and businesses. And indeed, that's what happened on this wash in 1999.
It was so widespread, and looking across the sky, the entire sky was just dark. It was very ominous, and I think it really caught everybody by surprise. The storm was so big and dropped so much rain in such a short period of time.
It turns out that during the 1999 flood, we were actually in design on the first phase of this project to construct it. Unfortunately, we didn't get it built prior to the floods occurring. However, we did design a facility from Stephanie all the way down to Broadbent. It's about 3.5 miles of facility. We built the project in 4 phases. We started at Stephanie and built a new crossing there that was capable of handling the 100-year storm event flow. We reconstructed the bridge at Boulder Highway again to increase the capacity there. Right at Boulder Highway, just west of Boulder Highway, historically the Duck Creek passed into Boulder Highway and Pittman Wash actually merged with that flow there. It combined at such an angle that when the flows come into the Duck Creek Wash, it just created turbulence in the Duck Creek. It created wave action and could be highly erosive at that point. The flows can eat into the banks. If there's structures alongside the banks, those structures can be undermined and fall into the wash. So we try to minimize that angle. That means we turn the flow so that it's all going in one direction before we let it merge.
Since 1999, the district has improved more than 12 miles of the Duck Creek Channel. That's just one of 10 major washes that drain the Las Vegas Valley. The Flamingo Wash is another major watercourse that flows through the valley. That wash also saw major problems with erosion during the flood of 1999.
The Flamingo Wash, particularly at Boulder Highway, crosses Boulder Highway just south of Sahara. In 1999, we had a severe erosion problem. The banks of the Flamingo Wash were eroded out. It undermined the mobile homes that were located along the Flamingo Wash and caused those mobile homes, at least 3 or 4 of them, to fall into the wash and be carried away.
Some of the neighbors were disappointed to hear that we would be lining the channel, but the concrete lining was definitely the best option for this reach because it was a very narrow corridor and those mobile homes are really just sitting right on the edge. The water goes through there, it has a lot of power and it can do a lot of damage. The only thing that can really withstand those kinds of forces is a hard lining like concrete.
To date, since 1999, we've constructed about 46 miles of conveyance on the Flamingo Wash watershed and the tributaries into the Flamingo Wash. We've also constructed 12 detention basins and debris basins in that watershed. That would include the Corps project, where we teamed up with the Corps of Engineers to build a number of facilities up in the southwest part of the Las Vegas Valley.
The improvements on the Flamingo Wash really benefited the community in a number of ways. First, they of course provide flood protection for the homes and businesses, but they also improve safety by conveying flows underneath the roads and the bridges. In the last 13 years since the flood event, the entire Flamingo Wash system has been improved. If we had a flood today on the magnitude of the 1999 flood, it would be a totally different story. We would not be seeing nearly the destruction that occurred in 1999.
A lot of work has been done since the 1999 flood, but there's still a long way to go. The district is only about 75% done with its master plan, and that means there will be a lot more construction in the future. Right now, we have 11 projects under construction, totaling more than $62 million.
We have several pretty big projects that are just getting ready to either go out to bid or already out to bid. The first big one is the Vegas Drive storm drain. It's located in Vegas Drive between Rancho and Shadow Mountain, which is about 1.5 miles or so west of Rancho. That project is actually advertising now for construction, and it will probably start construction in 3 to 4 months, somewhere towards the end of 2012. We have another project, the Tropicana Wash from Swenson to Flamingo Road. It actually goes through a portion of UNLV right by the Desert Research Institute. There's an existing wash there that we're having erosion problems again with and maintenance problems, and so we're going to improve that section of the wash. We did partner up with the UNLV, and they're contributing some money to actually enclose a portion of the wash so they can utilize it for part of their campus. We have a big bridge project that's about to advertise up in Moapa, the Logandale Overton area. That's the Cooper Crossing. It's the first phase of a multi-phase project that'll be constructed along the Muddy River through the Overton and Logandale area. We also have a project that's already started on the Las Vegas Wash. It begins at Lake Mead and Pecos and goes all the way up to Cheyenne. It's actually 2 phases that are being constructed at one time. Part of the facilities that will be constructed with the Las Vegas Wash project is a new crossing at Lake Mead and Pecos. Right now, for the people who live out there, know that the crossing that exists there goes skewed across the intersection from the northwest down to the southeast. That crossing is undersized. We can't get the flow through there, and we would expect flows to spill out there during a 100-year event. So we got to increase the capacity of that structure, and the only way we could do that was to remove it and replace it with another structure. So we're working with the contractor to minimize the impacts to the neighborhood and try to get that construction done as quickly as possible.
Every completed project means another part of the area is better protected from flooding, and the storms this past summer showed everyone the district's work is not yet complete. The area near the Desert Rose Golf Course was hit hard. Homes in the area were damaged when the water overwhelmed facilities. It was a problem the district was aware of and is working to fix.
The Las Vegas Wash drains the entire Las Vegas Valley. In places it's concrete lined, in other places it's unlined, and in a certain place it goes through a golf course, the Desert Rose Golf Course. We've recently completed some flood insurance studies with FEMA with better technical information. In November of last year, FEMA put 1,700 homes in a flood zone. The Las Vegas Wash in the past has seen a lot of water going through the area near Charleston and Nellis. We've sized our flood control facilities, and FEMA maps the flood zones based on a 100-year flood, which is a 1% chance of occurring in any given year.
I had people that would call me and I'd go out to their house and you'd see the water up to their fence line, and the entire golf course was covered. You'd have beds and mattresses and grocery carts flowing down through there as the water receded.
And that's why it's important that we try to mitigate that as quick as possible. When a property is added to a flood zone, then flood insurance becomes mandatory if there's a federally insured loan. So it means additional resources, financial resources for those property owners, But I think as important is we are identifying and communicating that flood hazard. And what we do is not only protect structures, but we're protecting lives. And so if that 100-year flood did happen, it's not only the homes and the structures and businesses out there, but we want to make sure that we can mitigate that flood so that we don't lose any life. In June of 2012, sitting down and looking at our financial resources into the future and updating our 10-year construction program, it became apparent that we had capacity to go tackle the improvements along the Las Vegas Wash. It includes some concrete channel. We'll also include rebuilding a golf course so we can have the capacity to pass that 100-year flood. So in June of 2012, the board passed a resolution to reserve $35 million of our bonding authority to implement this project as quick as possible.
I think it was a recognition that our public works people had worked with us. They had let Gail know that it really was a top priority, especially because of the convergence of all the flows and the volume of the numbers of condominiums and homes that got added into the floodplain. It's a safety issue, and down the road, this is the right thing to do. So we're hoping within 5 years we'll be able to develop that and ease that flooding. And if that's the case, then we can apply to FEMA to have those homes removed from the floodplain.
When we normally construct projects that are on our 10-year construction program in that they're programmed in a certain year, never to the size of a $35 million project. And what's different here is we're reserving future bonding capacity to get this project going once the design is completed. Right now, the county is going out and requesting proposals for the engineering services for this project. Sitting here today, I would guess that process of selecting the consultant and actually getting the design done may be a little bit over a year away, maybe a year and a half away. And at that time, we'll know more what the scope of the project is that's going to be built and what the impacts of the community will be when it goes to construction. The goal of this project is to pass the 100-year flood safely from Cedar Avenue all the way down through the Desert Rose Golf Course, and in a manner that would remove the surrounding property from the 100-year flood zone, thereby protecting the structures and protecting life. What this does for the flood control district for the first time is identify future monies to implement this project as quick as possible. So in essence, we're expediting the process to make sure that we can build a project to protect the homes, businesses, and lives within the next 5 years.
According to the National Flood Insurance Program, more than 20% of flood insurance claims are filed by people who live outside flood zones. The best advice we can offer homeowners is that everyone should consider flood insurance. If you live near a channel or at the end of a cul-de-sac where water can collect, flood insurance may be a good idea. Head to floodsmart.gov for more information or call 1-888-CALL-FLOOD. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of the Flood Channel. Log on to our website, regionalflood.org, to find out if your home is located in a flood zone. You can also find us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. From all of us here at the Flood Channel, remember to always be flood safe.